Hi, Timoki. Thank you for joining us to today's app development diagram. And the last session, we learned first half of developing heap calculator. And today we're gonna continue this topic. And Arsan will show the rest of the app development and maybe how to code the project on the
Yeah,
GitHub. Please, Arsan.
yeah. Hi everyone. Can you please enable share screen?
Oh,
So in previous class we studied till uh, we have created the layout for our application, that is a tip calculator. Then today we are going to build 8 functionalities. How are things gonna work in our app? So today we would start with view binding. So basically in previous week I was not familiar with this topic, so I did a little bit research about it. So view binding is basically a library provided by Kotlin that that, that helps us shorten our code. For example, in previously we have seen that we used to first refer our code by writing find view by ID. Then we used to mention that ID. So one extra line was written, one extra variable need to be created. But now we can use this binding library. Just we write binding, and then we give its ID and the ID of that element, and then we give the what we want to do with it. We have written here text here. So how can we start with view binding? So first we have to enable it from our Gradle script. Gradle script is basically a application, a script provided by Android Studio that helps us manage our functionalities of our app and our dependencies of our application. So what it says is there are two types of Gradle script here. One is project level, another is module level. So we usually make changes to the build Gradle module level here for view binding. So I would go here and I would write this build view feature. I would just write it here, build feature view binding true. This is just to enable our view binding library. it it doesn't have to do anything. It is just for enabling view binding functionality in the uh, Android Studio. This is what this does. So basically after this there if you write it in here, then option would come here trailing to sync that library. Then you sync it, and then the view binding feature is enabled in our project. So now let's get started to work with binding. So previously we have seen in our other code that we write uh, we we have an we what I can say is, let us check what the previous version of our app was. If I open any other project, let us open this project. So if I click on here, see, this was set content view r dot layout dot activity main. This was setting content. This was taking the elements from activity main and setting it to this layout. So same goes for here, but here instead we write binding is equals to activity main binding dot inflate layout inflator. It will inflate uh, all the elements. Inflate means basically means add all the elements to our activity. What elements? The elements that are in our main activity. That is this one, layout activity. It would add all our elements to this activity. Yes, let's just skip this part. Now this is what this line is. Now set content is setting that content. Now we can use this binding library. If we check our import statement, there would be one sorry. So we check our import statement. These are the imports that we add, or the Android Studio adds when we use it. For example, here we have used bundle, so the bundle import statement has already been added. If I write it fresh, if I, for example, if I remove this, these import statements are important for our application. If I remove this, then it will show us error here. And to add import here, we just press Alt. We just bring our mouse pointer here and just press Alt Enter to add our import statement here. This is what all the import statements are. So this is the binding library. We call the binding library, and then we call calculate button. What was calculate button? It was the ID for this button right here. This was the calculate button was the ID for this. So, and I set this button text to a button. Now you can see here if it is written calculate, but now I have set this button text to a button. If I run this application, it would change its text to a button. See how Gradle is building that project. Let me remove the now. Now it has changed our button to a button. So we can handle our views by writing just one line binding and then writing that view ID instead of adding extra lines of code. This is a library that Kotlin has provided us. There's nothing new to add to it. And then this was all about view binding. Now let us see what more things we need to add here. I have explained all this. So see, this was the previous version of our code. We needed to find that ID and then we needed to change it. Now we can do it in a single line, binding.mybutton.text. So this was all about view binding. Now let's add our functionalities, calculate tip. So in what, let us remove this line. We don't need to change this text. We have just added it for uh, so now calculate button. So what this calculate button will now do, now if I write it here binding, I am calling the binding library. Now I am writing the uh, ID of the button, calculate button. Then I would create a set an on click listener that we have done previously, and then what when this button is clicked, on click listener would be called, and then we need to define a method for calculating a tip. So I would write calculate tip here, calculate. This would show us error. Why? Because I have not created a method named calculate tip right till now. So if I see create a function named calculate tip.
So we have here Div and Abdullah joined at the same time, but not.
What?
We have here Div and Abdullah who joined this time, but not the last session. Could you please
What
provide
I'm
the
not able to hear you. I'm
uh,
not able to hear you clearly. Oh, what are you saying?
let me write in the chat. If Div and Abdullah, if the app is clear for you, so we are creating a
Oh,
tip calculator. And last session we created the architecture of this app, the three parameters like how much tip you want to give, and a calculate button which calculates the total amount of tip that we are supposed to give. And this time we are activating this calculator.
functionalities of
Yeah. So I'm going to share the link for architecture, but I hope for now it will be useful how to uh, activate the functionality. Let's keep learning this. Okay. Thank you, Abdullah. You can continue.
So Dev and Abdullah, uh, if I show you the our till now what I have done, what we have done. So we have just created this layout where we write the cost of our service, and according to the cost we select our tip, and once we click on this button, then it should calculate the tip that we should give for us. This is what we are working on. So till now we have covered this uh, design of our application. You must be familiar with it, how to create. It won't take much time because we have covered this in our previous lab session. Today we are we are adding functionalities to this radio button. These are called radio button, and we are adding functionalities to this button so that once it's clicked, it should display the amount of tip that we need to give. So this is what we have done till now. So let's move forward. So now I would create a method function. I would create a function called calculate tip. So this is what we have done till now. So now I will try to, for our function to work, calculate tip, uh, what we need to define. First we need to take the input that has been given by the user. That means this right here, we have to take the input from here. So we would write a line in our function that is value string. Let's just copy paste it, and so value string id is string in text field, then binding library is called, then cost of service. This cost of service is the uh, id for cost of service. This is the id for cost of service. And then dot text will take the text from input text from there. So now I have stored the input text in string in field. Now what we need to do, we need to, since this is string, we need to convert that string to double. Since edit text is taking the string, so we need to convert it to double. Okay. It convert the decimal number called to double string and store it. I have not given. Now to check this code. Oh, since I have taken the input type as number decimal, it is already in double, so it's not converting it into double. So if I change, if I remove, or let's just leave it right there. We don't need to add this line.
It,
Finding cost of.
it,
Excuse me, you're not audible properly. Hello.
um,
Hello. We need to add a toString to text. Uh, that to uh, that is already in string. We needed to add it. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So if I do this line, if I copy and paste this line, it would work. But since it was not in strings, it was not converting it into double. So why did we need to do this part? I am not familiar, because we have already defined this number decimal, so it is taking the number right here. So why did we need to convert it into string then again into double? That I am not familiar right now. Let us see for let us move forward and see what was the need for it. For now, let's just ignore that. So this is what it is. Now value select id binding tip options check radio button. Now we are checking, we have taken the input. What the next thing we need to do? uh, for example, now I have taken the what the user has input. Now we need to take what the user has selected among these three. So I would write another line of code for that. So this line value select id view binding tip option. Tip option is a radio, but radio group. This is a radio group right here, and then check radio button id. So this would check the radio button id. It is predefined in radio group. What we will do, it would check that which id we have selected. Now we need to define a value, a tip percent method. So value tip percent method, what would it value tip when selected item. This is called here. So value tip percent when selected id, that is when the selected id is r dot app. Now if I see what are the ids present here, 2018, and so r, if the selected when selected id, this is the case right here, and if the selected id is option 20%, so how it calculate percent, we multiply it by 20 by 100. So we just multiply it by 0.2020. Same goes for 0.18. That is, this is simple math, that how we calculate percent. We multiply it by 15 by 100. So this is the condition for tip percentage. Now what we need to do, we need to multiply this tip percent to the cost that we have taken from the input. So see what the next line says, value tip is equals to tip percent into cost. So value tip is equals to value tip is equals to tip percent, that is the tip selected tip percent by the user, into the cost that has the user has input. This is what tip percent. And now if I run this application, calculate tip. Now if I let us see what happens if I run this application right now. So if I write 100 and 20%, if I press calculate, nothing happens. Why nothing is happening? Because I have not put the code for displaying the output. See, I have calculated the input, but I am nowhere I am displaying this tip to the user. So this is not showing the output till now. So to display, we would display the tip later, but now let us add one more functionality, that is this roundup button, the functionality for this roundup button. So roundup button would basically round up our tip. For example, if it is in decimal or something, so it would give us a roundup value of our tip. So let's add the functionality for roundup button. So first we need to check whether the user has selected roundup button or not. If the user doesn't want to round up, then we don't need to round up each and every value of our code. So first I need to check that the user had selected the roundup or not. So roundup. So value roundup is, first I would call the binding library, then I would see roundup switch. Now this roundup switch is basically the ID of that roundup button. And if dot is checked, is check to basically return me a boolean. See, if I see here also, is see its data type is mentioned right here, boolean. It is check will basically return me true or false. So this is a line for checking whether the user has selected the roundup button. Now if the user has selected, then I would write the code for it. So let us see. If roundup, as I said, uh, it is returning a boolean. So if it is true, if the user has selected that, if his roundup is true, then what we do need to do, we need to calculate the seal. As the name suggests, it would basically seal the value. That would it would make, for example, if the value is 12.7, that it would seal to 13. It would give us the upper limit of our value of our number. So this is what the seal does. So till now we have added all the functionalities of our button, but uh, we need to display this output to the user. So before displaying, format the tip. They are also formatting. They are displaying it in currency. So let us do that too. Calculate tip. Add. Your app is almost working. You are calculating the tip. Now you need just to format it and display it. So we have added all the functionalities, but now we need to format it and display it. As you might expect, Kotlin provides methods for formatting different types of numbers, but tip amount is a little different. It represents a currency value. Different countries use different currencies and have different rules for formatting decimal numbers. For example, US dollar 1234.56 would be formatted to 1234 $1234.56, but in euros it rounds up to 1 1.23456. So this is basically number formatting system for different currencies, how they round up the currency. So this is why euro round up like this. Basically it must be due to the currency value. The roundup is different for all different currencies. So I need to add one more functionalities for functionality code for rounding up. So what would I need to do? Number format dot get currency instance. Number format. This is the format of our number. In calculator, we get currency instance. Number format dot get currency instance. Value. Now if I format it, this tip was basically the tip. If I click here, then this is the tip that we were calculating. Now we round up it. We have put the correct conventional format for it, and now all we need to do is display the tip. So displaying uh, this thing that we had skipped in the previous lecture, how to display strings correctly. So for now let's just skip that and let's, if I write it here, if I go to previous code lab and see what we have skipped. So So this was the link for the previous code line. Let us check what we have skipped in the previous one. We didn't. We just skipped a part where we didn't. See, this boot coding practice we have skipped. In this we had skipped the string part. This is the same. Okay. Aya, can you share the XML module where we defined this value? Is it this one? This is the one that we are doing right now.
Shared.
So, so we had skipped this part where we define string in. So let us look at this. What we have skipped. So if we see our XML file right now, activity main.xml. So this was where we defined all the strings. How was the service and all. So basically the correct format for defining strings in our layout is, what we do is we go to resources folder and values, and then we add all our strings that we are using in our XML in this resources string file. So we had not done that in the previous lecture. So what would I do is I would just copy it. This is all the strings that are being used in the application. So if I, this is a correct convention to do. Instead of writing the string here, what I would do is string. What was the name? Let's go line by line. First is the cost of service. See, at the rate string, and what is the name of the application? Cost of service. See, what I did was I created a string resource file named with the cost of service. That basically means that this is the ID of the string, and inside this angular bracket I write the value of the string. What string I want to write, that is, if I write cost of string is, that means it's the cost of string. This is what we have done. Instead of writing it here, we we have written it here. If I see the suggestions warnings, it would also highlight, see, hard coded string, how have you searched. So in XML we don't directly hard code our string, we just use it. What is the need of it? For if you ask, then for example, if I need to make, if I had used this string multiple times in this XML layout, and if I had to make any changes to the string, so instead of uh, making changes everywhere in this, I could just go to the string and I would just make changes here. This can be one use. There are multiple use of this. This can also be used for language conversion and all. So this is another part that would cover later on when we study scalability of our application. But now let's just stay right here. So this is what we have done. Now if I would change all the hard coded strings into writing the values of it. String. The second is how was the service. So I would string, how was the service. Same goes for every string. increasing service. This would do basically the same thing, but it is a correct format to write the string in our XML. String how the service, good service. At the rate string. What was the ID for it? Okay service. So I would just service. Round up the tip. Same goes for this one. Round up the tip. If I check the ID for it, it is calculated, and then final is tip amount. So we have removed all the hard-coded string. If I see the warning, there are other warning that hard-coded string warning has been removed now. Now let us go back to what we were doing. Now we were displaying that. So for displaying, what we need to do is Android text and activity tip result, find the tip result. So in our main activity, I will find the tip result, and in tip amount, let us take a look at our code. So I would display my final tip amount right here. I would change this amount right here. So what I need to do is here I have already referred it. I would go to string right now, and I would uh, add this line. I would add this line to it, that is tools.text. This would change our text to tip amount $10. That's it. That is, see, this has changed our text. Now what I need to do is I would go right here and insert a placeholder. Here I would add a placeholder into it. So let us move to our next here, and now here. So first I would add a placeholder to it. Placeholder is basically, as the name says, is just holds a place for our variable to be inserted later on. So this %s would be changed with our actual value of the tip. So binding dot tip result dot text. This line would now work properly, because see, binding dot formatted tip. See, binding dot tip result dot text dot get text. Now I would get string, that is I would get this string, and after this string I would type this for insert this formatted tip. This formatted tip is basically returning a number to us. So if you have previously read about placeholders, so what we do in placeholder, or how we defined a variable in a string in Kotlin. First we did a %drns, and then we wrote the value of it right next to it when we studied Kotlin. So same goes here. This is the string. This is the string tip amount %s, and we could also just do this instead of creating a string differently. What I could have done is I would have just, see, it would look much simpler right now. how this is not the correct way, but how we did in Kotlin was when we were using printf and we needed to add a variable to the string. So what we did, we just added it right the string right here and with a placeholder, and then this placeholder was added later on by this variable that we have put right here. So if I move it back to that part, so this is what, or let us so this would now add calculate our tip. Now if I run the application, our code should be working fine. Now it's just showing a placeholder right there, but instead of placeholder, if I write 100 and that 20% go to be 20, and if I press calculate, then see it's showing us $20. So 120% instead of 18%, then it would change our text to 18%, and if it is 15%, then it would change us to 15%. And now let us check if our roundup value is working fine too. So if instead of 100, if I put 99 and I do 15%, see this is our value without roundup, and if I round up, so our roundup button is also working fine, and if I don't round up, it is 14.85. So this is uh, the main function. We still need to add few more things in our code, because let me show you one error right now. For example, if the user has not given the cost of service, if the user didn't give us the cost of service and the user just selected the percentage of tip that we want to give, and if the user already also selected round tip, so since we have not given the input, the app would crash. Why did it crash? Because our variable was searching for input. This input was null and this was converted to double. Since we had not given any input to it, it was trying to calculate the percentage of something that we had not provided. So our app crashed because of that. So to handle that, we need to add few extra lines of code in our method so that it doesn't crash. So value cost, so to add that line, let us see what we can add. Value cost dot double, and to double method work system method system dot double. Now found if cost is equals to null, then we should return. So if I add this right where I have written cost, if the cost is equals to null, then we should not do these things, we just need to return. And if I rerun this application, now if I select this and if I calculate,
There is a also statement that we need to write double or no, no. You yeah,
oh sorry, yeah, this was the exception that we need to cover. If I run, if I check our application, it is working fine. Now this line was for something else. Let me show you what this line was doing. So if I write $100 right here, and if I do amazing, then it would show us 20%, $20, that is 20% of 100 is $20. Now if the user deletes this and if the user again clicks on calculate, then it should not be $20 right here. It should have converted to $0 because we have not given any input, so it should not give us any output. So for that we need to add this line, that is if cost is equals to null. So if we start with writing $100 and amazing, it gave us 20, now it gives us $20. Now if I remove it, so cost is equals to, it should remove that right there. Why is it not done? Now this line I need to add. And cost is equals to null is not just return. Instead of just returning, you need to add, you need to change that string to default value binding dot tip result dot text to its default value. Now if I run this application, if I have if I had previously calculated of 100, it would give me 20. Now if I remove this, and then if I, so it is not giving us any output because we have not given any input to our code. So if I do $76 and if I round up, see it is giving us output right there. Few things are still left in this, that is how we handle errors in our code, that is how we use logcat for getting an error. For example, if since our app crashed suddenly, we didn't know, since it was provided to us, so we knew that since we are not giving any input, that's why our app is crashing. But sometimes you are not able to recognize how our app is crashing. For that we use logcat. We would cover that later on, but now let's just move forward to this good coding practice. Basically these are uh, good coding practices. You can just refer to it. There is nothing, but it will just make our code much cleaner. And move to anything else, you can see the solution code right here. So let us see how we can upload this project to our GitHub. For that you need to create a GitHub account for yourself. So if I go to, if I open my GitHub account, you just need to sign up to GitHub. It is simple, just to, so this is my GitHub profile. So these are the repositories that have already been added to my project. So for this project for if I want this project to be uploaded on GitHub, so I would just go and click on VCS. I would share project on GitHub, tip calculator, and description I would write. You cannot give a space in repository name. Since if I click on add, since I have already linked my GitHub account with Android Studio, it is going just fine. But if you do it fresh, uh, window, and if you click on VCS, it would first tell you to sign up your GitHub account, and then it would do. Now if I see the event log, successfully shared the project on GitHub. So if I open my GitHub and see if whether this has been shared or not, If I refresh it, see, our tip calculator has been uploaded. And if I want to share this project, I would just open this repository. If I would just click or copy the link and then give it to you. This is how we share the project. And if you open this, you would open my GitHub account in which this would be uploaded, and you can see the project right here. This is how we upload on GitHub. GitHub individually is a very good topic, but Android Studio has made it much more simpler to install, upload files on GitHub. But if we had to do it with command line, it is an advanced topic. It would just take few time. And now let us see how you can open this code in your Android Studio. If you want this code to open in your Android Studio, you just click on code and you click on downloads it, and this has been downloaded. You just now you just copy you just extract this download tip calculator and paste it somewhere. Now you just go to Android Studio, you file, open, and then file, open, and then you navigate to where you have downloaded the application. I have downloaded in installs download, so I would go there and I would open my application from there. So this is download. You can see what was the name, tip calculator master. If I go there and if I click OK, then it would ask and it would just open. This is a project. Now it would ask to, if you want to trust the project, we just trust the project, and it would open in few time. This is how you can open the project and you can share the project on GitHub.
Awesome.
If you have any,
Timothy, Dave, or if you are need help, I think we have like 10 minutes and we
yeah,
can start maybe creating the app. If you have any questions, you can directly ask on me. And also, if you already have the app, maybe we can connect the app right now to OJ and have some
and
talks or
and
something.
if you have any doubt, you can ask. Basically, we have finished 10 minutes earlier so that we can
Think
cover
nice,
the doubt.
nice time to create GitHub or connect GitHub because later study jams, we're gonna create more apps and it will be awesome if you can just create apps with us and upload it to your GitHub and collect all the work that you have
And for
created.
example, if any one of you are creating any project in Android and if you are stuck with something, so you can just upload it on GitHub and share with me. I would definitely take a look at it and see if I can help. So
Awesome.
this is how you upload the project on GitHub, and you can share it with me so that I could help you
Yeah, for
further.
example, if it's
Yeah,
not finished work, you can
yeah,
upload current version and ask
hmm.
Arzan for help or me.
Yeah, yeah. And then I can take a look at your project from GitHub and I can just suggest the changes, or I could just commit the changes to GitHub, and once you download it again, you have the updated version of the code.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So we have nice mentorship from. And if you have any questions on this project or what we're gonna do next, let me just share. Well, we have like a couple of minutes, and while you think about any questions, I want to share next apps that we're gonna do.
Next thing we will be going to do is we would study about uh, list view and uh, layout layout adapters.
Let
So
me
we
share
would
the screen. I want to just have the visual representation. Here it is. Um, we just learned this tip calculator. This is our second app, and we're gonna have 10 more, 8 more.
activity and fragment lifecycle.
So next is about app navigation. I think this is a nice, really interesting and important topic. And we're gonna have Android trivia app as an example of using this. So we have Desert Clicker, Scramble, Track My Sleep Quality, Recycler View, RC Real Estate, Work Manager, Smart App. I think after these
This,
apps, we're gonna have nice
this
overview of how to create Android
and
apps, and you
yeah,
can
and I
start experimenting.
yeah, and I think after the completion of all this, you would be uh, in intermediate or advanced level of Android developer, because
Really?
it would cover all the concepts, required concept to move forward. Because once you start doing, you would learn more and more things. But these apps would cover, give you a track for starting with Android development. So
Wow,
I think it would
it's
be.
awesome. So if you have no questions, then maybe we will stop this study jam today. I hope it was
We,
interesting and useful. Thank you.
yeah. So since we have 5 minutes left, we can upload our dice roller also in GitHub. I
That's
can
good.
just share the screen again. What we did in the previous lecture, where we created a dice rolling application. So we can also upload that right now. So to upload that, I would again.
And if you share your apps on GitHub and share it with me and with Arsan, we want to celebrate your first steps, your dreams, your achievements together.
And if you are creating any personal project or anything related, then you can ask for help. Surely ask for help.
Bye.
So if I So previously we did was
Upward.
calculator dice roller. So let us upload this project to. It is very simple to upload from Android Studio. You just click on VCS, then share project on GitHub. Then it would ask for your login if you have not logged in here. Uh, your name, repository name should not contain any space. If you click here private, then this project would be visible to you. So if you want to share your project, you don't I suggest don't select private from here, because if you select private, then it would be visible just to you. This is what you just need to do for uploading the project. So now our dice roller has also been uploaded in the GitHub repository. So if I need to share it, I would just do that, and I would just open dice roller and I would just copy paste this link right here. So this is our dice roller application.
Awesome. There's no other questions. See you next week. Bye bye.